My in-laws said I was only marrying her for a green card, so I canceled the wedding. Stayed in the country and blocked every number they had. I'm a 28-year-old man, and I came to the U.S. 6 years ago with nothing but 2 suitcases, a scholarship, and a dream that my hard work would eventually make me feel like I belonged here. I didn't know that belonging would come wrapped in both love and heartbreak. I met Emily during my 2nd semester in grad school. She was the kind of woman who radiated warmth, the type who remembered your coffee order and actually listened when you spoke. We met in a late-night study session at the library. I was lost, trying to figure out an assignment, when she leaned over with that easy smile and said, "You look like you're solving world peace over there." I laughed for the first time in weeks. From that moment, everything just clicked. She showed me American holidays, Thanksgiving dinners, Halloween costumes, and even the weird obsession with pumpkin spice. I showed her my culture, homemade food, my language, my traditions. We built this bridge between 2 worlds, and it felt unbreakable. After 2 years, I proposed to her under the same oak tree where we had our first picnic. She cried, said yes, and I swear, I felt like I had finally made it. Her family welcomed me, or at least, that's what I believed. Her dad shook my hand with a firm smile. Her mom hugged me, and her brother cracked jokes about me joining Team Emily. It all felt perfect, too perfect. I would visit their home every weekend, mow the lawn with her dad, help her mom carry groceries, laugh over dinner. But every now and then, I'd hear something that didn't quite fit. A chuckle when I mispronounced a word. A comment like, "You speak good English for someone who just got here." I ignored it then. Love makes you overlook small things. But looking back, those weren't jokes. They were warnings, and I wish I had listened. The first time I heard the joke, I actually laughed. Emily's brother grinned across the dinner table and said, "So, when's the green card party?" Everyone chuckled, and I forced a smile, even though something in my chest twisted. Emily shot him a glare, but her mom just waved it off with a casual, "Oh, honey, he's just teasing." Teasing. That's what they called it every single time. Her mother once smiled at me while clearing plates and said, "At least Emily's marrying someone educated." It was meant as a compliment, I think, but the way she emphasized educated felt like a backhanded pat on the head. Her father would occasionally ask, "How long are you allowed to stay after graduation? Or do you plan to go back home once you get your papers sorted?" Every question sounded polite on the surface, but underneath, it carried the same quiet accusation. "You're not really one of us, are you?" At first, I brushed it off. I didn't want to make Emily uncomfortable. I told myself they just don't know better. They'll get used to me. So I smiled, laughed, and even joined in on the jokes sometimes. Pretending it didn't sting, but it did. It stung every time I saw Emily flinch when someone made a visa comment. It stung every time I noticed her mother's eyes dart toward me when the topic of marriage paperwork came up. One night, after dinner, as we were driving home, I finally said, "Do they really think I'm marrying you for a green card?" Emily sighed and looked out the window. "They're just ignorant," she whispered. "They'll come around." I wanted to believe her. God, I needed to believe her. Because if she was wrong, then everything I'd built with her was standing on a foundation of doubt, and deep down, I think I already knew it was starting to crack. Our engagement party was supposed to be perfect. The kind of night you remember for all the right reasons. The lights were soft and golden, the backyard strung with fairy lights, laughter floating over music and clinking glasses. For a while, I almost forgot the tension that had been building. Emily looked radiant in her navy dress, her hand fitting perfectly in mine. I thought maybe, just maybe, things were finally turning around, until her uncle, a man I'd only met once before, stumbled up to us, glass in hand, his words slurred with alcohol and arrogance. "So," he said loudly, grinning as everyone turned toward us, "when's the visa deal going through, huh?" The laughter that followed was like a wave crashing over me, cruel, careless, and sharp. Someone clapped him on the back, another made a mock toast, and for a few seconds, I just stood there frozen. My ears rang. My throat felt tight. I looked at Emily, waiting for her to say something, anything. but she just stood there, eyes wide, her lips pressed together. Her parents didn't move either. Her mother gave this awkward smile as if she was embarrassed for me, not by them. I forced a small laugh, the kind people make when they're trying not to cry, and muttered, "Excuse me." I slipped away before anyone could stop me, the laughter echoing behind me like a haunting refrain. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the steering wheel, feeling my chest tighten with humiliation. A few minutes later, Emily came running out, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she said. I didn't know he'd say that. I wanted to comfort her, but I couldn't even look at her. "You didn't say anything." "Emily," I whispered. That night, as I drove home alone, one question echoed in my head. What's the point of love if the people closest to her will never see me as more than a transaction? After the engagement party, something between Emily and me shifted, a silence that wasn't quite anger, but not peace either. She kept apologizing for her family, for that night, for her uncle's stupid mouth. I told her I forgave her, but deep down I didn't know if forgiveness was enough anymore. The laughter from that night lingered like a bad echo. The next time I visited her parents' house, her mother smiled too much, that strained, artificial smile that hides something sharper underneath. "Over tea?" she asked casually. "So, how are you two planning to handle finances after marriage? Will you be contributing?" I blinked, unsure how to respond. "Of course," I said. "We're equals." Her expression softened, but only slightly. "That's good to hear. You know how these things can get complicated, especially across cultures." Cross cultures? The phrase landed like a slap. I could feel the judgment behind every word, not spoken directly, but implied through tone, through the careful pauses. Then came the prenup conversation. "It's just a formality," her mother said over dinner one night. "You understand, we have to protect family assets." Emily tried to intervene. "Mom, stop," her father chuckled, sipping his wine. "No harm in being smart, sweetheart. You never know with these things." "These things," I repeated quietly. "You mean me, right?" The table went silent. Emily's face flushed with embarrassment. I laughed not because it was funny, but because I had no other way to process the humiliation. That night, Emily came over to my apartment. She curled up beside me, whispering, "They don't mean it. They just worry." But that was the problem. They did mean it. Every joke, every question, every so-called concern chipped away at the foundation of what we had built, and I could feel it, the slow, suffocating distance growing between us. Love was still there, but trust was starting to fade. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon. Emily had gone out to run errands, and I was home alone, reading through some work emails, when I heard a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, her mother stood there, perfectly composed, clutching her purse like she was about to deliver a sermon. "Hi," she said sweetly. "Do you have a few minutes to talk?" I hesitated but nodded, stepping aside. She walked in like she owned the place, glancing around at my small apartment as if she was taking inventory. Finally, she sat down on the edge of the couch and exhaled deeply. "I just want to make sure you understand where we're coming from," she began, her tone polished and practiced. "We love our daughter, and we just don't want her used for citizenship." The words hit like a slap. For a moment, I couldn't even respond. I just stared at her, at the calmness in her voice, the way she said "used" like I was a parasite. There was no venom, no raised tone. Just a quiet certainty that I was exactly what she believed me to be. I finally found my voice. "With all due respect, ma'am, I didn't come here to take from anyone. I have a career, a visa, and a life I've built without help. I love Emily, that's all." She smiled, but it wasn't kind. It was that polite, dismissive smile that says, "You can talk, but I've already decided who you are." When she left, the apartment felt smaller, suffocating even. I sat there for a long time, the silence heavy around me. By the time Emily got home, was packing a small bag. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I just need space," I said quietly. But the truth was, space wasn't what I needed. I needed to know if love could survive when respect was already gone. 3 days passed in silence. Emily called a few times, Sent messages asking when I'd come home, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I needed the noise in my head to quiet down first. I'd gone from feeling humiliated to numb. That numbness felt safer than anger until the text came. It was from an unknown number. At first, I thought it might be a spam message. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. It was Emily's brother. There was no greeting. No explanation, just a single screenshot from what looked like a family group chat. And in it, line after line of cruelty. Her uncle had written, "Told you, he's the immigrant jackpot." Her mother responded with a laughing emoji. And then, at the bottom, her father's words burned into my brain. "She'll learn when he leaves." I just sat there, staring at my phone. The air in the room felt heavier with every breath. My hands trembled, not from anger, but from heartbreak so deep it made me dizzy. It wasn't just jokes anymore. This was proof. Proof that everything I'd been sensing, the doubt, the quiet hostility, wasn't paranoia. They actually believed I was using their daughter. I was some opportunist biding my time until I could disappear. For a long while, I didn't move. I didn't call Emily. I didn't text anyone. I just stared at those words until they blurred. Then I took a deep breath and took screenshots. Every line, every name, every tamed. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to explain myself, to win anyone over, or to be the better man. Something inside me shifted, a calm, quiet clarity. If they wanted to see me as a stranger, I'd give them exactly that. No more silence. No more pretending. When I finally went back to Emily's apartment, she ran into my arms like she'd been holding her breath for days. "I thought you were leaving me," she whispered. I wanted to tell her everything, the messages, the betrayal, but the words wouldn't come out. I couldn't bear to watch her heart break over her own family. So, I swallowed it. I told her I just needed time to think, but something in me had changed. We threw ourselves back into wedding planning, pretending things were fine. At first it worked. Cake tastings, venue tours, guest lists on the surface. It looked like progress. But underneath, every moment was tense. Vendors canceled unexpectedly. A florist backed out after a misunderstanding with her mother about payment. Emily grew snappy, tired, and distant. I could feel her trying to hold us together with sheer willpower. One night, while reviewing the budget, she sighed and said, "My mom thinks you're being secretive about expenses. She asked if you're hiding something." I froze. Hiding something? Like what? "I don't know," she murmured. "She said you might not be contributing as much as you claim." That sentence, softly spoken, almost hesitant, was a knife. I didn't even need to read the chat again to know where that idea came from. After that, I started keeping records. Every payment, every message, every receipt. I wasn't sure what I was preparing for. I knew I couldn't trust anyone except myself. The love between us was still there, flickering like a candle in a storm, but it was fading fast. Every conversation turned into a minefield. Every silence felt heavier than the last. One evening, as we sat side by side finalizing the guest list, she reached for my hand. "We'll get through this," she whispered. I nodded, but inside I wasn't sure if this meant the wedding planning, or the wreckage of what used to be us. 2 weeks before the wedding, everything fell apart. Emily's parents invited her over to talk, and though I wasn't supposed to come, something in my gut told me to drive there anyway. I parked a few houses down and waited, the summer heat pressing through the windshield. Through the open window, I could hear their voices, low at first, then rising. Her mother's tone was icy, controlled. "Emily, you need to think clearly. If he truly loves you, he'll have no problem signing a prenup." Emily's voice cracked. "He already told you he's not after your money. Why do you keep doing this?" Her father chimed in, voice firm and patronizing. "We're protecting you. You're too emotional to see it, but he's manipulating you. Once he has that marriage license, you'll be trapped." I felt my jaw tighten. My heart pounded in my chest. They didn't even realize the windows were open. "They didn't care who heard," Emily shouted. "Stop! You don't know him like I do." Her mother's voice dropped to a whisper, sharp as glass. "We know enough. If you don't get that agreement signed, we're cutting our financial support. No venue, no dress, no honeymoon. You'll have to figure it out yourself." There was a pause. A long, painful silence. Then I heard her sob. That sound broke something inside me. I got out of the car and walked straight up the driveway. They froze when they saw me at the door. I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I just looked them in the eyes and said, "If you think I'm marrying your daughter for a green card, then let's make it easy for you. I won't marry her at all." Her parents just stood there, stone-faced. I turned and walked away before anyone could stop me that night. As I packed my things again, I realized I wasn't just leaving their house. I was leaving the version of love that kept begging to be believed. The morning of what should have been my wedding day arrived like any other quiet, gray and heavy with unspoken things. No tuxedo, no music, no vows. Just me sitting on the edge of my bed, surrounded by packed suitcases. Not to leave the country, though, just the city. A new job offer had come through a week earlier. I took it without hesitation. I made coffee in silence, the kind of silence that doesn't comfort. It hums like a wound. My phone buzzed constantly. Missed calls from Emily, a few from her brother, and a dozen from unknown numbers. I didn't answer a single one. The ache in my chest wasn't rage anymore. It was a kind of peace that only comes after you've lost everything worth fighting for. At 10 o'clock .em. The same hour I was supposed to be standing at the altar, I posted a simple message online. "Thank you to everyone who supported us. The wedding has been canceled for personal reasons. I wish her nothing but peace. No drama. No accusations. Just closure on my terms by noon." I heard from a mutual friend that Emily's parents were already spreading their version of the story. "He abandoned her," they said. "He used her and ran off." I expected it. That was their language, blame disguised as concern. I didn't defend myself. Not once. Not publicly, not privately. Because some stories don't need to be corrected. The truth just waits, quiet and patient, until it's undeniable. As I loaded the last box into my car, I looked at the empty passenger seat and whispered, "This wasn't the life I planned, but maybe it's the one I needed." Then I drove off. No wedding, no family, no closure from them. Just silence. And the slow, steady rhythm of freedom beginning to take shape. Months slipped by like a blur. Quiet mornings. Long workdays and nights that no longer felt haunted. I poured everything into my career. Not to prove anyone wrong, but to remind myself I could still build something out of the wreckage. Then one afternoon, my manager called me into his office with a smile I hadn't seen in months. "Congratulations," he said. "The company's decided to sponsor your visa extension full term." For a second, I couldn't breathe. No wedding. No family connections. No shortcuts. Just me, my work, and my worth. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in years. The life they thought I was chasing through marriage, I had earned it entirely on my own. A few months later, I accepted a promotion in another state, a fresh city, a new apartment, unfamiliar streets that didn't remind me of anyone. For the first time, silence didn't sting. It felt peaceful. Then, one evening, I got a message, Emily. Her text was simple. "Can we talk?" We met at a cafe halfway between our cities. She looked different, tired, smaller somehow, like she'd been carrying the weight of everything we'd both endured. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I should have defended you. They lied to me. About so many things. I cut them off after I found out. I believed her. Her pain was real. But some things can't be rebuilt once they're burned down." "I forgive you," I told her softly. "But we can't go back." I needed to lose everything to find myself again. She nodded, tears falling silently. There was no anger between us, just the quiet understanding that love had been the casualty. But dignity was the victory. As I walked away that night, I didn't look back. For the first time, I didn't need to. A year later, life looked nothing like what I'd imagined, and yet somehow it was everything I needed. I had a corner office overlooking the skyline, a team that respected me, and a life built on my own terms. On weekends, I volunteered at an immigrant support group, helping newcomers find jobs, housing, and hope, the same things I once struggled for. It felt like I had finally found purpose beyond pain. Then, one evening, a mutual acquaintance from Emily's hometown reached out. "Hey," he said over the phone, almost hesitating. "You've been the talk of the town lately." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He chuckled softly. "Word got back to her parents that you're doing well. Really well. New job, new city, no visa issues. Let's just say they're not thrilled." For a moment, I didn't say anything. I pictured her father's smirk, her mother's polite condescension, those looks that once made me feel small, and now, without a word, without revenge or confrontation. The truth had done all the talking for me. I didn't post about it. I didn't brag. But somehow, my success had found its way back to the people who once defined me by the limits they assumed I had. The irony was beautiful in its simplicity. They had accused me of chasing citizenship, yet I stayed. They thought I'd fall apart without their approval, but I thrived. A few days later, I heard through that same acquaintance that Emily's mother had said, "I guess he didn't need her after all." It's no malice, no satisfaction, just quiet irony. That was my revenge. Not through words. Not through anger, but by simply existing beyond their narrow world, proving that their prejudice was never my ceiling, only my beginning. As I walked home that night, city lights reflecting off glass towers, I realized I hadn't just survived them. I'd outgrown them. Sometimes when I look back at everything, the laughter, the whispers, the humiliation, it feels like it happened to someone else. But then I remember the way it felt to sit in that car outside Emily's house, hearing her parents tear me apart like I was some kind of scammer, and I realize that pain never really leaves you. It just transforms. Humiliation became my fuel. Every insult, every judgment, every moment, they made me feel less than. It all pushed me to become more. Not for revenge, not for validation, but for peace. I built a life that didn't need anyone's approval. I stopped chasing acceptance from people who saw my background as a disadvantage. The truth is, you can't make someone see your worth if they've already decided you're beneath them. But you can live in a way that makes their opinion irrelevant. There's a quiet kind of victory in that. It's a kind that doesn't need applause, sometimes. When I mentor young immigrants now, I tell them, you don't have to fight to belong where you already do, because I learned that the moment I stopped begging to be seen was the moment I finally became visible to myself. I still think of Emily sometimes. Not with bitterness, but with a soft gratitude. She was part of a story that broke me open and taught me who I really was. Our love didn't survive, but it led me here to this peace, this strength, this version of myself that no one can take away. And as for her family, they can keep their walls and their narrow vision. I outgrew their world long ago. They thought I came here for a green card, I say sometimes, half smiling to myself. But I stayed for something better. Self-respect. And that's the kind of citizenship no one can ever question.